see, it's quite ugly out here right now, and not just crypto, but a few different avenues as well. And a large part of that is there's a lot of uncertainty with war. We've got, it's not just in the USA, there's a lot of different areas that are going to be affected and afflicted by this. We've also got the issue of tariffs on the 2nd that are going to be starting on April 2nd, the additional ones. And it's just more and more of this, I don't want to say negative news, but it is for risk assets. And right now we are dealing with risk assets when it comes to crypto and even a steadier area. It's not just crypto here. So don't think that this whole thing was, oh, this is crypto. It's manipulated. It's the only market that's down. I can even, show you a similar manipulated market in the mining sector. You've got gold today up $28.63, right? And it's approaching almost $3,100 an ounce. You had Barrick Gold was down 2.1%, but B2 Gold was down 9.1%. And they actually had good news. They talked about the Mali mine is going to overproduce what they were expecting. So like it's quite interesting that it dumped right here. Like this is just par for the course for most that don't understand what the cycle that comes next. So it's not just crypto, but crypto, to put it bluntly, is going down a slippery, it's a dark, slippery slope that we're heading down right now. That doesn't mean it's over. That doesn't mean that this market is going to go all the way back down to the bottom. But what it means is we got a rejection at a very area that we did not want to get rejected at. And we were trying to pull out of this area. Now, the good news is that despite an almost 7% drop, XRP is not giving this area back. Right now, it's a perfect back test of the breakout point. So right now, if this could hold, it would be a super volatile swing. And this is what we talked about yesterday in the live. It would round up, come back down. And I said yesterday it was at 222, but today it would be wherever it was at in the current time. And today it brings it down to about $2.13 is what we can't give away at 213.8. So, and that brings us into, I believe, Sunday. So that's what we're going to want to be above, at the end of the weekend. And you can still make a very strong case that we have a big potential to the upside, but you can make a bigger case, an equally large case that we have this this head and shoulders pattern in the longer time frame, and we're trying to avoid a right arm. And then what I think makes a lot of sense is something we talked about yesterday, if you were here, is if this ends up being one big left shoulder, you would have a big play through, and that could get you down 147, even farther, depending on how long this plays out. But how that might even be able to fill a gap at 91, possibly, you never know. So if that's the case, we've got a big volatile swing here that's going to take place. And, it's not, trust me, these are not the days I wake up and say, oh, this is going to be a great viewing day, or this is going to be a great positive day for XRP, or this audience is going to be more positive than not. Because I know what's happening here, and I know all of you see it. All that momentum we gained, it gave it right back before the dreaded weekend. And what happens, and I hate saying it, but this would be the 15th weekend in a row. And last week wasn't as bad. Last week wasn't as bad, especially for XRP. But this would be, almost 4 months in a row now, where it sends us down a very dark path on the weekends. And, at this point, it is what it is, but it's not the end of the world. We got to understand this is not the end of the world. So I don't want you guys to think, oh, it's over. It's all about timing, right? Timing market versus time in market. So, we'll watch this as it plays through, but I don't like the fact that this is playing down. I'll be honest. I don't like the fact that it's playing down. And I don't like the fact that we came outside of that newly found uptrend that was helping support us on the way back up. So it's a bona fide breakdown right now. And with a bona fide breakdown, it's probably going to bring us to $1.96. Not because we wanted at $1.96. Not because $1.96 is our friend. But that's just, that's where it looks like we're pushing towards, And that doesn't mean it's going to happen. It means that we have to pay attention to if this area breaks down. The more than likelihood we're going to come back down in both regards. The bottom of this formation but then ultimately back down to the bottom of this channel as well. So there's a lot of conformity here and confluency. So, but it's a slippery slope. Like I said, if you fall back into here, you're going to start to see bounces. Look at that, $1.55 right there at the bottom of the channel. And that would get you to the end of March. You know, if it did it like that. But it would be, I don't think it would come down there that quick. But, you know, who knows. But if you start riding the channel, you know, if you start coming into April, back here, I mean, you could start to really, because this is where you want to have that big bounce. And then I think I was reading that we have an eclipse coming this weekend. So traditionally, you know, you got to take that for what it's worth. But traditionally, the eclipses are not exactly friendly for us in crypto, as we know. So, and April 2nd would be a good day if you're out of the market to kind of try to time it to see what goes on with the tariffs. Because until we have any kind of quantitative easing or they start pumping this market back up, we don't have a lot of leverage. We don't have a lot of leverage. So, new moon and eclipse, interesting. Well, the new moon's not so bad. But it's, we're in a very tricky time right now. We are in a very tricky time right now. And I don't want you guys to get too mad about it. But it's just one of those things. You know, we're going to have to deal with this treacherous market. We're going to have to deal with what the dynamics of what's going on right now. And, you know, it's not the worst thing that's ever happened. Think about it this way. Last time this far after a nice rally for XRP, we were already sunk below $1 again. And then we were trying to decide whether or not we were going to go below 20 cents or not. Like, that's how bad it was. At least now we're trying to decide if we're going to go below $2. There's a big difference. But yeah, there is definitely an inverted head and shoulders. You are right about that. That's why we are trying to not invalidate the structure, my friend. That's a perfect inverse head and shoulders here. Out right now. It came down to the left side. Now the right side's here. This would be so perfect if it could play out. And even farther off, you could circle here to here to here. And now we're trying to form a real inverse head and shoulders in the shorter time frames. But there is, you can even break it down to a microcosm. There's absolutely the opportunity. And I highlight it like that because that's actually, to me, a back test right now of an inverse head and shoulders. And that falling channel is everything. That falling channel represents whether or not this plays out or not. In my opinion. Because if you lose this, it's over. As far as this formation goes. Can't come all the way back down to the bottom of that channel again and hope for the best, you know. And then the problem with what we're doing right now is we've got this engulfing candle all the way to the downside. Like, this is a horrible looking candle. And this is in the daily. That's horrible. This is going to close. If it closes like this, FYI, this would be opening the next daily candle leading into Friday night into Saturday would be engulfing to the downside. It would be super bearish. And it would have eyes for the 200-day down here at $1.94. I'm not trying to kick anybody in the dick. But I'm trying to enlighten you in the brain, you know. One organ to the next, so to say. But that's the way it goes. You know, and the female audience already knows. You know, they're not as slow as us males. So they can already see what's transpiring right now. So I don't got to kick you guys anywhere. You're probably going to have to kick us. So we wake up. Don't threaten you with the good... You know? To each their own, right? Some people need a little bit of physical violence to get it on, you know. But man, it's just been an incredible time. And I don't regret it one bit. I don't regret it one bit. You did your job indeed. You did your job. So I'm gonna do the intro real quick. If you are watching, make sure to hit that like button. It would really help push this content. I don't usually talk about it, but just if you're watching, you appreciate what's going on, don't have to hit it now. But if at some point you're like, holy crap, that was some good information, or you're like, I'm glad I heard that, or I just appreciate this guy, just hit the like button. You know, if you feel inclined and you're new, hit that subscribe button. You know, that's all. But anyhow, with that being said, good evening. 6:08 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Friday, March 28th, 2025. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. What can I say about this market? It's a bitch. You got to be observant. You've got to kind of dig beneath the top layer. And you've got to kind of, I don't want to say you've got to wane your expectations, but the biggest thing I see with a lot of traders, and I have the privy of new, old, mediocre traders, the ones who have the long pass, short pass, brand new, seasoned veterans, the rookie, the veteran young guy, all of them. So what I see out of that is the ones who have been in this market for a few cycles right now, they're still looking at certain tokens, and that's more of the accumulation zones for some. And certain tokens, they've taken profit, and now they're looking to see if it'll hold the ultimate support, like with XRP, to see if it's a right arm or not. But then you've got the other ones, and the best way of saying it is we start buying into the market when it's already on a top for certain things. And then even other things might not look like it's as bad because it's not as high up, like let's say as XRP is how it's moved this cycle. Then we might buy something that we like, and we're like, here, let's just throw one for example. Somebody might like Theta, and they might have been like, Theta at 95 cents, that's a crazy cheap deal. And now all of a sudden they're sitting here and it's down another 7%. It's like now we're buying a falling horse. We're buying you don't want to buy the falling knife. And that's the biggest risk there is in crypto. If the cycle's over and it's meant to drop for a while, it don't matter. You can say you're buying the dip. The only thing you're buying is an over heightened top that hasn't come back to consolidation zone. And that's the scariest and worst feeling to have as a trader. But it's one that if you haven't experienced, you're going to have to experience it. Otherwise, you won't understand it. And that's the bitch part about trading. I can tell you till I'm blue in the face, but until you understand it, more so to say, you're chasing a rip instead of understanding it's in a big dip. It's always, I'm buying it here because we're about to have a rip. Not realizing you've already missed the rip, and now you've got to wait for it to get back into that. You can either call it the demand zone, the supply zone, the consolidate. I don't care what you call it, but you got to wait until you get back into those big zones. FEGs are good for that as well because you start to see where a portion of people that missed out, you might come back down there and tap them again. But that's how you look at it. And right now, you don't get overzealously nervous because you knew it had to come back down here. If you watched yesterday, you knew it. If you watch my content, you know. When you break out of long-standing patterns, it is very rare that you don't come back and give it a hard back test. Either hitting it directly or coming through it a little bit, like this has come through it a little bit. But you don't often come through this without an overzealous back test. Now, the only thing we were fighting about yesterday is that should it be right here? And the only reason I say that is because right here, that is the resistance here, resistance. So if we're trying to say what's the best case scenario or it can't break it. If we do it in that regard, so we hit every part of this resistance, which is probably more appropriate, this is what you'd be left with if you look at it in that regard. So I guess you could say 206 is, you cannot, how about this? We cannot, we will not, and we cannot afford to lose that. Is that fair? So we cannot afford, and you could say that this is more defined because it didn't go up all the way. So, I mean, it does make sense. So you cannot lose this. Are you understanding? If you're watching me right now, what can we not do here? We cannot lose this. So I'm going to give it every benefit of the doubt of where we can go. And then let's see by the end of the weekend when this candle closes. So by Sunday, we have to be over $2.02. Otherwise, in my opinion, we're going downtown. Without pants, though, is going to be the problem. So I don't want to go downtown, especially pantsless. So we'll definitely see what happens. But yeah, it's not looking great. And the other alarming thing is that entire bounce up, there was no volume. So, but the positive thing is as long as we don't lose 202 by Sunday, we are in good shape, and we've still got a long ways between 218 and 202. But if we go down to 202, then I mean, when we look at the chart, we would have to look at it like this and be like, well, we're probably going to hit $1.96. That's the technical drop from here. So I think it makes sense. This whole thing makes sense by the numbers that it's probably going down. We had a chance. We certainly had a chance yesterday and the day before, but we failed. Now it almost looks like we're building these. Well, we are. We talked about it yesterday. We're building a bear flag, and if it didn't hook up, we got problems. And right now it didn't hook up, and we've got problems. Does that mean it's over? Absolutely, positively not, because I keep showing the same pattern that could bounce off. And I'm even giving us all the benefit here of actually having it timed out right here now. So that's it. You know, that is it. That's how you need to approach this. So it would be the first green Sunday officially in 15 weeks if we have a green Sunday. So eventually it's going to happen. The problem I have with this particular Sunday, or maybe it's a blessing, the first is not until what, Tuesday? So oh, look at that, an Auburn fan in the house. Just because you were the #1 team in the country. You know, you should also be a little disappointed that you have to play Michigan tonight. We should have been a 3 seed, not you know, we should have been the 3 seed. So you shouldn't be playing us tonight. We should probably be playing, I don't know, I haven't looked. But it's definitely going to be a good game. And if I was you, an Auburn fan, you better hope we don't bring our 3-point shooting, because if we do, because we turn the ball over like nobody's business. Like, we'll turn the ball over more than XRP turns over a good rally. And that's pretty alarming. You know what I'm saying? So, it's, but Auburn's got flaws. And Bruce Pearl has flaws in the tournament. And there's a reason he's never won a title. So, I would like to think that, that tonight's going to be another one of those moments where they're like, what could have been for Bruce Pearl? But now he gets knocked out by the 5 seed. Fighting Dusty Mays, the fighting Mays, you know. So, I don't know. I like my chances tonight. Dusty may let Florida Atlantic to the Final Four. You know, and he was one last second shot by San Diego State or San Diego from going to the championship. So, oh my God. I actually like Calipari, so I wanted him to win last night. He had him by the balls, up 15 or 14. He blew it. It's not unlike something he's done in the past. Oh yeah, I hope they. I would be worried about Michigan too. They've actually got a skilled group that's been to the Final Four, not on Michigan, but they got a few guys that were on Florida Atlantic, and then there's just a few guys. You know, I'm not gonna keep going into Michigan, but you know, it's definitely we could definitely surprise the #1 team in the nation tonight. I would not be surprised. Not all 1 seeds are going to make it. Eventually, one of you got to bail out. Hopefully, it's to my Wolverines. XLM down 4.3%. This was the worry with XLM not getting outside of the structure, because we're in a deep zone right now. We needed to get out of here, in my opinion, because now even if it's bullish, it opens the door back up to coming to 19.2 cents. Like, I don't know anybody who didn't buy it in the beginning, who's buying it now on this cup and handle now, who wants to sit through another 30%. Like, that's the bottom line here is, even if this is bullish, we put ourselves in a position where this market could tank another 30%. I mean, how many of you would be willing to sit if you just bought it through losing 1/3 of your portfolio? That's why it's more not about time in the market. About timing the market. And a lot of the people that buy it now will simply say, I'm just going to hold it forever, so what does it matter? Again, you don't need to hold it forever if you time it properly. You know, you don't want to be somebody's investment sitting there. Again, it's only there because your exit liquidity for everybody else, but then you tell yourself, well, it doesn't matter. I'll just keep buying it no matter what. But then you end up down 72%. You may have the same amount of, dollar value, but that's only because you've been putting in all the way to the bottom. But at a certain point, you got to call a spade and be like, uh-oh. So, and well, yeah, with XLM with us, we got in at 8.5 cents in this community. So I'm not, and there was plenty of opportunities. You can do whatever the hell you want with XLM. Like, that's the thing. Like, you can do whatever you want. You can sit through it. You can ride it. I just know my expectations are higher on some. That doesn't mean you don't take profits along the way, because you'd be idiotic not to, especially when you're up 6, 7, 800%. And if you have a problem like I do taking profits, adopt my philosophy. Just adopt my philosophy. Whatever I want, if it's able, I buy twice as much. So if I say, hey, I want 10,000 XLM, I'm buying 20. Because then when the moment comes where I'm like, I know I should sell out of the market here, I don't touch the amount I wanted. I touch the twice as much amount, and then I get to pay myself back handsomely and still hold the original investment at the individual price. So that is what I've learned throughout the years in the market. So then you don't have to worry about timing out the market. I like it better like that. So yeah, that's what we're looking at for XLM. But just remember that, like, let this, and like all of these, like XLM, even H bar, even if it comes all the way down here, I could see it coming all the way down here to 14, maybe even 12. That's why I drew these out like this. And that would still be super bullish. And this is actually building a rather large inverse head and shoulder, I mean, cup and handle, which is still an inverse head and shoulders as well. But it's building this cup and handle, but you can see the inverse left shoulder. So there's a lot to be happy about here. I mean, when I say a lot, I mean a lot. A lot. But I'm gonna make this easier for everybody. I'm only gonna keep a few little lines here. But I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna connect this for everybody, just so you can see kind of, what was this at? I know it came up over the top too, if it were to break out, but we need to at least show the official part of this right now. Now that we can see it developing, that's a rather large, if it has to come back down to the uptrend. You see what I mean? That's a rather large fall if we were to come back, and it came back through. So I mean, let's just say, for shits and giggles, that it comes all the way back. I mean, that's a huge drop. I don't think it's going to come all the way back there, because it would invalidate some of the structure. But, you know, that's the overstanding pattern. I mean, there's big potential in all of these. You know, it's just we're at an interesting spot. We are at a very, very interesting spot. And like DGB, I'm proud of. It made that rally prematurely so that it wouldn't have to fall much. You know, like the others here on the weekly, it looks great. Compared to the rest, this weekly looks good. This will be one of the few that actually gained this week. Daily time frame looks like a hell, but which one doesn't? You know, so there's not, everything's not blissful here. Trying to reverse here, so, but it's building a very big pattern here. That's a very big consolidation and looking for a bigger breakout. It just kind of, is the rest of the market going to hold it back? I could see eventually here on one of these weekends where we finally power out. But we'll see if it's this weekend. It's just the economic front doesn't look great. You know, with the threats of war and the tariffs for April 2nd, it doesn't seem like a great time. Now you could have a little front running of it, but I would expect more downward pressure here. I would. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but that's my expectation here. A little bit more downward pressure. You know, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world by any means. It's just, you know, sometimes that's what happens. Sometimes that's what happens with the market. But eventually we're going to get that moment where it hits the apex point of the downturn, and then all of a sudden we go back on the offensive. You know, and once we get back on the offensive, I thought this was interesting though. So XRP versus XLM Bollinger Bands. Signal big squeeze coming. So do you want to hear a little bit of positivity at least? John Bugathorpe, welcome in. I really appreciate seeing you in here, my friend. Jennifer Kupiak, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 3 months with the XRP Meteor. Frankie's in here as well in Tom's Army. A lot of my friends are in here this evening. But I think this is important. So XRP versus XLM Bollinger Band signal big squeeze coming. In recent weeks and months, XRP has once again become one of the most talked about cryptocurrencies in its 11-year plus history. It is understandable as the price of XRP has surged more than 500%, outperforming Bitcoin. Many renowned institutions have filed for an XRP ETF, and the coin itself has been mentioned in the discourse of the U.S. digital asset stockpile. Digital asset stockpile. However, few know that amid all this XRP mania, another token considered to be the beta, to the third largest cryptocurrency has also been making waves on its price chart. We are talking about Stellar XLM. You know, XRP future millionaire with the side bet on XLM and future Digibyte. OG. That same XLM. The catch is that both XRP, oh wait a minute. Since November, the price of XLM has soared even more than XRP, gaining 600% and jumping from 9 cents to 63 cents in just a few weeks. The catch is that both XRP or more specifically Ripple, the company that uses this cryptocurrency in its services, and Stellar XLM were created and designed by one person, Jed McCaleb. While XRP is seen as a solution for businesses, the idea behind XLM is more for individuals. With this in mind, the XLM versus XRP ratio, when analyzed correctly, can reveal many good opportunities for traders. For example, back in November, XLM outperformed XRP by 173%. And while most investors were looking at the latter, the former offered opportunities for even more gains. Since then, Stellar has lost its positions against XRP, as beta assets tend to do, losing 70% in recent months. However, the Bollinger Bands on the XLM XRP chart signal that another big squeeze may be brewing, as the Stellar token has started to break out of the tight range above the upper band. If history repeats itself, XLM may go on another round against XRP and somehow erase all the declines of the past few weeks. All in all, these two are probably the most interesting pair. Ooh, I love it. I love when they say that. To keep an eye on right now. Joseph, thank you so much for the $10 donation. I greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate that, my friend. Now, he says that I have some testicular... Tom, you got some serious testicular fortitude, my friend. Keep it up. Much love to you and the family. Oh, I appreciate that. Appreciate that. Oh, no, I won't be buying anything. I'm not buying nothing anymore right now, as you guys know. But I know DGB is so hard to buy in New York. It's crazy because you can't use the exchanges that you need to. It's fucked. That's what sucks about the USA right now. So Ripple news today. Oh, we're going to go through some news. What have we been on? Holy chamolis. 27 minutes. And I've been tight squeeze today. With the house stuff. And I'm going to my dad's for the Michigan game. So I got to leave here around 7:45. And, just my son's stuff and the builders and just, it's everything. It's just been busy. The house is coming together, though. Holy crap, is it coming together? I should show. Some people are going to be like, I don't want to see the house. But I know a lot of you are invested, so I'll show you what's gotten done real quick. You won't be able to hear me, but you'll be able to see. A nice stove, nice hood. Countertops. Still. That part's still being worked on. It's the same floors now. Alright. There. I always promise to update every so often. But yeah, it's a huge change. As you guys know, I had carpet and oh man, there's big change. Big change. When I bought the house, it hadn't been and it was from Julie's family. Went from her grandma to her aunt to her cousin. But they all bought it from each other, and then we bought it. But for 4 years we paid it off, and then, for the last year since it's been paid off, I've been just putting, I just save the monthly payments, and then you get to a certain point as well with the crypto stuff. It's man. Oh yeah, it looks beautiful now. It was quite beaten down. Like literally 4 weeks ago when we started getting the work done, you wouldn't even, we got new windows to it. It's about a $70,000 transformation in the end. Because we still got to do the bathroom. But in the end, it's going to be crazy. So I definitely could have sold this house and moved somewhere else. But I live below my means, and I like living below my means. Plus, it was in Julie's family. So yeah, there's something to be said for that. I could have sold this and bought a 2,000 or 2,500 square foot. I didn't want it. I'd rather I like living more comfortably like this. It makes you less stressed out. Let's see. So Ripple XRP news today, March 28th. Ripple and its native token XRP remain among the hottest topics in the crypto space. Check out the most recent developments in the Ripple environment. Ripple secures additional support. The firm's native cryptocurrency has become the subject of renewed support from various cryptocurrency exchanges. Ever since partial court win against the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission in the summer of 2023, some of the platforms relisting, hey, my gold and silver, special locations. I have a few bug out places where, I can go. There's some on water, there's some not. Some buried, some stored at other houses. I do keep a little bit, but not quite, because I think I'm gonna have to get out of here if something happens. So I like to keep it at certain points. So my brain's a weird brain. Some of the platforms relisting XRP in the past few years include Coinbase, Kraken, Crypto.com, Gemini, and more. Earlier this week, the well-known brokerage firm Interactive Brokers also, I don't care about it. In addition to XRP, the company also embraced Solana, Dogecoin, and Cardano. So the lawsuit is over. As mentioned above, the legal tussle between Ripple and the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, reached a pivotal point in 2023. In the following years, the company secured additional court victories before finally triumphing earlier this year. Ripple's CEO Brad Garlinghouse announced in mid-March that the SEC had dropped its appeal, describing the effort as the official end of the lawsuit. Some legal experts, though, reminded that the company was previously slammed with a $125 million fine, and the battle will not conclude until it settles the amount or appeals the ruling. Earlier this week, the chief legal officer, Stuart Elderody, said the firm will withdraw its cross appeal and pay a penalty of $50 million instead of the previous ruled $125 million, potentially marking the case's final resolution. The $50 million is already in an interest-bearing account, while the remaining amount will be returned to Ripple. He said, ETF to follow next. With the legal battle seemingly already in history, all eyes are now on the potential launch of a spot XRP ETF in the United States. The renowned companies that have displayed their intentions to introduce such a product include Grayscale, Bitwise, 21 Shares, and more. Meanwhile, Nate Garassi, a well-regarded ETF analyst, believes BlackRock and Fidelity may also join the race to become the first entity to introduce that type of investment vehicle in America. And look, XRP is at the forefront of all this. There's so much good stuff happening, and that's when the markets should shut, it siphons people out. It's just before any big thing, they always get rid of the crackers, basically. So, and I'm not talking about white people. I am a cracker in that regard. I mean, you got the soup, you got the crackers. The cracker gets absorbed by the soup, and you don't even know they were there. That's what it's like in the market. It gets absorbed. So, don't be a cracker. A cracker of soup. And if you're stereotyping it in any other way, you might be looking at race in a bad way. So, just keep it on point in your own head. According to Polymark, seems obvious spot XRP exchange traded fund approval. Simply matter of time. I mean, honestly. And yes, I expect BlackRock, Fidelity, etc. to all be involved, he recently said. According to Polymarket, the odds of such a product to see the light of day before 2025 stand at around 85%. Ripple's 85%. Ripple's integration, the company recently integrated the new Oracle service platform, Lumina, into the XRP ledger. The XRPL to enhance data transparency across DeFi real-world assets, RWAs, and Web3 applications. Built on the decentralized informed asset framework, Lumina went live on March 26 and aims to replace traditional black box oracles with fully on-chain infrastructures. The platform's core engine is LaserNet, a layer 2 roll-up built on Arbitron and Ethereum, designed to deliver fully transparent and verifiable Oracle data. I love that it's on Arbitrum. I always, for some reason, like that. Ripple sees this setup as essential for advancing the real-world assets, RWA space. Moving away from the systems used by oracles like Chainlink and Pyth, the XRP price prediction, XRP recorded a solid yet quite brief price spike following Garlinghouse disclosure. Since then, it has experienced an enhanced volatility and eventually plunged to the current 222. Unfortunately, it's at about 218 to 216 right now, probably 218. Some market observers believe the asset could resume its bull run, but such progress would depend on certain factors XRP needs to surge past $3 to invalidate the current head and shoulders pattern, potentially flipping the outlook bullish. Yeah, well, now what else? So now we talk about the XRP head and shoulders pattern at risk if XRP breaks above $3. But as we know, that hasn't happened. And we already know it's, why stop at 3? Why not just go back to where it was at? 300,000 XRP drop explains recent price tumble, with its price plunging more than 4% in a single day as the asset tries to hold on to its position within a contracting trading range. XRP is once again under pressure. XRP is currently trading at about $2.23, now we're at $2.18, plummeting from $2.40 range, losing a sizable amount of its most recent gains and undermining investor confidence. However, below the surface, on-chain dynamics might be providing a hint to what's happening. According to on-chain data, and guys, I think this is so fun to go through this. Like, we see it from a charting perspective, then you start to figure out the details through the news as well, and some of the metrics. So daily transactions have significantly decreased by over 300,000 XRP, which is directly related to the most recent price collapse. Network analytics show that after steady activity above the 1 to 2 million mark earlier in March, the number of executed transactions has dropped precipitously. Price sustainability, particularly during periods of consolidation, depends on both user interaction and network engagement. Man, is it hot. I feel hot. Might need to turn the air on for a sec. Let's see. Engagement, both of which may be declining. As indicated by this decline, the quantity of successful transactions completed has not increased over the last week, despite being comparatively steady year over year. This stagnation suggests that although the network is still operational, growth is no longer accelerating it. To put it another way, the enthusiasm that once underpinned bullish narratives is beginning to wane, and momentum is ebbing. Technically speaking, XRP's current chart displays a breakdown below the 50 and the 26-day exponential moving averages, as well as a retreat toward the lower limit of its long-running descending channel. That's true. I mean, that's the 200-day EMA, which is located close to $1.93, is the next crucial support. Can't argue. So I keep saying, like, we go any lower than we are now, we start to run the risk of, should this level not be maintained, there may be a wider correction and even a bearish breakdown from the multi-month pattern. The significant volume on this sell-off indicates that there is more going on here than just profit taking. It might be a precursor to panic or institutional offloading linked to the deteriorating on-chain foundations. The drop of over 300,000 transactions, a technical malfunction, and a decline in volume all suggest that XRP is about to enter a vulnerable stage. To protect current support levels, bulls must move quickly, otherwise they run the risk of seeing the asset continue to decline in the upcoming sessions. I like that. Oh, I always say this, my friend. When everything dumps, you won't see the 300, 400, 500 people in here. I'm actually quite surprised that now, when it used to dump and be like this sustained, we have about 75 people. So we're up about 60 people still. So I'm actually happy that so many are paying attention. But this is where we actually read through some of this stuff to try to compare it to the market. Oh yeah, I don't listen to all the influencers. They say it's going to 10 billion or it's going to 0. But this is something I do put stock in. So XRP price may drop another 40% as Trump tariffs spook risk traders. And this is very bad for risk on, because the people that are looking for risky trades, they're not going to go into a risky trade thinking that it's against them from the beginning. I don't even think the ninja guy actually held any XRP, so I think he's all full of shit anyhow. XRP price may drop another 40% as Trump tariffs spook risk traders. The XRP market is flashing warning signs as a bearish technical pattern emerges on its weekly chart, coinciding with macroeconomic pressure from anticipated U.S. tariffs in April. XRP descending triangle pattern hints at a 40% drop. Since its late 2024 rally, the XRP price chart has been forming a potential triangle pattern on its weekly chart characterized by a flat support level mixed with a downward sloping resistance line. A descending channel or triangle pattern forming after a strong uptrend is seen as a bearish reversal indicator. As a rule, this setup resolves when the price breaks below the flat support level and falls by as much as the triangle's maximum height. As of March 28th, XRP was testing the triangle support for a potential breakdown move. In this case, the price, we'll look at the Fear and Greed Index in just a minute as well. I seen somebody comment about that. In this case, the price may fall toward, and that was the gap, man. And thank you for being in Tom's Army for over 2 years with the XRP 589 Moon Badge. What a stellar son of a bitch you are. Downside target at around $1.32 by April, down 40% from its current price levels. XRP's descending triangle target echoes veteran trader Peter Brandt's prediction. He warned of a possible decline to as low as $1.07 due to the textbook head and shoulders pattern forming on the daily chart. Conversely, a rebound from the triangle support level could lead the price toward its upper trend line at around $2.55. A clear breakout above this resistance level risk invalidating the bearish structure altogether, instead sending the price toward the previous high of $3.35. Trump's tariffs could amplify XRP sell-off. The broader market, meanwhile, has turned increasingly cautious in response to President Donald Trump's 25% tariff on auto imports set to go live on April 3rd. These tariffs are likely to result in higher prices for U.S. manufacturers and consumers. The February 2025 U.S. CPI report already showed a 0.2% month-over-month increase. Ooh, even better for a chance to cut rates, though, in our next meeting, which is what I'm aiming for. St. Louis Federal Reserve President Alberto Musalem estimated that these tariffs might contribute approximately 1.2 percentage points to inflation, with about 0.5 percentage points stemming from direct effects and 0.7 percentage points from indirect effects. According to the CME Fed Watch tool, the probability of the Federal Reserve cutting rates to target a range of 400 to 425 basis points in June has fallen to 55.7%. As of March 28th, down from 67.3% a week earlier and 58.4% just 1 day ago. A delayed rate cut would reduce the flow of capital in the speculative markets, stalling momentum for XRP and other digital assets that thrive in a low-rate risk-on environment. This article, that's pretty much what I wanted to read. We could go with the bullish route, but I don't really. Do you guys want to go with the bullish route? We went with some of the bearish. Let's go with the bullish. Because if it did break out, it could go up there. That's what the technical move is from the beginning. XRP price imminent breakout, $5.30 on the cards. Analyst says. The future of XRP as fans of the digital currency abuzz, with some analysts tipping a significant price surge in the near future. The digital currency market continues its volatile dance. Some are optimistic while others remain skeptical, but a few prominent players in the crypto space have shared their timelines and targets for XRP's possible action. Hate when they use timelines. One of the analysts, blah, 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 is very bullish. Based on the estimate, XRP may experience a big rise in the coming week. Even gone as far as projecting a lofty target price of $5.30. This has drawn many investors who are anticipating big returns in the short term, aka another way to get a cheap audience. But it's possible. It's just, I wouldn't say it in a week. This analysis indicates that the time is right for a big breakout, which could see XRP's value surge in a short period of time. Whether or not the prophecy comes to pass is yet to be determined, but it has definitely added to the buzz in the XRP community. The Golden Cross signals potential rise. Further adding the optimism, another analyst, Levi, has identified a technical signal known as the Golden Moving Average Convergence Divergent Cross. This generally interpreted as bullish, implying an asset will soon have a phase of robust growth. Levi thinks the setup is a significant bullish sign for XRP. The appearance of this technical indicator may be a major driver of investor sentiment and the ability to propel the price higher. Markets are usually followed by traders looking for these kinds of signals in order to make good decisions to buy and sell. Now the warning signals. Yet not everyone sees things so rosily. Veteran trader Peter Brandt, as we already know, he says $1.07, caution, yada yada, who da 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 da. So that's where we're at. So that's it's a lot. XRPH, I mean, eat your heart out when it's at levels that are lower. Obviously, we're not at the 1.7 we were at, a year and a half ago or a year ago or right around this time. But it's not at fucking 30 or 40. You're sitting at 8.5 cents. And I just see big things in the future. So it's one of those things. It's one of those things. Let's see. My son's coming out here, so I very well might end this. I got a lot of stuff to do. He's been through a lot today and through 4 weeks of housework. So I'm gonna shut this off for my son. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm glad we got to do 46 minutes together. It's been a blessing. It's been a privilege. It's been an honor. And real quick, Bitcoin's down 3.3%. And we fell through our hold sign. Remember, we needed to hold that area. We fell through. So now it's very much opened up the possibility to 76,500 and then possibly lower. But I'm going to go. Have a blessed evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in.